All right, here we go. So, describe Operation Barbarossa. Detail the invasion and its significance. Why would Hitler turn on Stalin? Why would he do so? Again, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which we talked about last chapter in the interwar period. All right, a lot of Russians try, well, to forget about this. They try to say, "Oh, it didn't happen." Well, it did, and that's what started World War II. And we'll mention the Soviet Union. Now they're in the fight of their lives, literally. So here we go. Oh, Mr. Neil Graham's quote here too. And Mr. Pike, so we'll talk to him now. If anybody's interested in reading Unbroken, I know I talked about this. Louis Zamperini, yeah, okay. And then, oh, this is Night by Elie Wiesel. More about the Holocaust. Okay. Primary source, varies. Yeah, I'm sure it is. So, if anybody's interested, let me know. Okay. What? Tomorrow is May, so 30. No, she's wondering about if it like tomorrow's gonna be 31 or it's gonna be May 1st. Yeah, Eli, zip it, okay? Stay out of the conversation, will you? I don't know why you're always worried about her. Were you trying to object to the marriage on Minecraft the other day? All right, we're done talking about it. We're done talking about it. Hey, I'm recording here. Recording your guys. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Operation Barbarossa. We just talked about. Just watched the video on it. Who's invaded who? Who's turning her back on who? Luna. Yeah, good job. So again, at the start of the war, right? And this is a way to try to prevent warfare on the Eastern frontier for Hitler, right? They signed this non-aggression pact, the Soviet Union and Germany. Again, it's strange. It was weird because the Soviet Union's what? What kind of ideology are they? Political ideology? Land. Communist. Good job. And then you have Hitler and the Germans, right? What's their ideology? Jason? Fascism. Fascism. Good job. Do they mix? Does Nazism and Bolshevism mix? No. No, it does not. Right? And we already know this because, well, what did Hitler write? What was his famed book where he described pretty much the laying it out of Nazism and who the true enemy of Nazism is? Awesome. Mein Kampf. Mein Kampf. Yeah, good job. So again, it just doesn't make any sense here. But for Hitler, this is a way to try to prevent Great Britain from declaring war on him as they invade Poland, right? And the invasion of Poland is what starts World War II. All right. One thing here I want to mention, which I did talk about, is that the Soviet Union, they're not innocent in any of this either, right? This whole time they're advancing many, many parts within North northeastern Europe. So when you're looking up here at Finland, well, before World War II even started, they were claiming a lot of land and fighting for this land up there in Finland. Down in modern day Ukraine, they're trying to expand there, right? Moving down here towards the Middle East where that Caucasus region is, which we'll talk about where Stalingrad is, right? Below it, anyway, below it. All right, they're expanding too. It wasn't just, I mean, obviously Germany's to blame here, but I mean, they're expanding as well. So you can imagine these two strong powers, these two industrial military powers. Now, once they go, well, eventually they're going to hit each other. Eventually they're going to beat it out. All right, like I mentioned, Hitler, he always turned against his word, right? He'd always stabbed everybody in the back, right? We talked about it last chapter in the interwar period, right? The Munich Pact, the Munich Conference. You remember, right? Chamberlain, he's shaking the paper and says, "Peace in our time." Boy, was he wrong, because Hitler, you can't trust the guy, right? The Treaty of Versailles, that was supposed to keep peace, well, forever, right? This was World War I, was supposed to be the war to end all wars. Well, Hitler, again, ripped that up. So, in other words, this hasn't been working. Anyway, so why does he shift his attention to the Soviet Union? What's the reasons for it with Operation Barbarossa? There's a few of them you can mention, but Naomi, what's one? Yeah, the big one here, right? So whenever someone talks about World War II, a lot of times there's different perspectives on it, but they say this is the resources war, right? This is the war on materials, on resources. And the Soviet Union, look at it to the right-hand side here on that big map up front in purple. It's massive, it's huge. It has oil, it has needs of metal, right? So to create different steel production, right? And I mean, all the farmland you can imagine. So the food production would be eliminated. Right, also, why else? Again, Hitler did not like, what was this again? What did he not like at all? Ben.
Communism?
Yeah, communism, right? He said Bolshevism, communism is a threat to all humanity, right? And he viewed the Soviet Union being filled with Bolsheviks and, well, Jews, right? And this was the, in other words, the subhuman area. And he wanted to eliminate it, he wanted to take it out. And he was vocal about it on Common, okay? So, as Great Britain's isolated, he shifts his attention to the Soviet Union. All right, I know everything we kind of watched so far says the numbers are all over the place, but just know it's 3 million German troops that marched deep into the Soviet Union. I know it said 4 and 2, I get it, but every other source that I've been seeing says 3 million troops. Either way, it's the largest land invasion the world's ever seen. And with it comes a lot of death and destruction. The Nazis are marching deep in the Soviet Union's territory, and as they're claiming land, they are killing everybody on spot. Right? Mass graves, right? Mass burials, okay? Raping women, it's ugly, it's gross, and this is, again, the horror sides of World War II, of all war, but in this case, World War II. All right, so we'll mention more about it. The Soviets will get their revenge. We will talk about some of the horrifying stories that the Soviets inflict on Germany, but as you can imagine, we're just kind of getting there. They're going to get the revenge, which we'll talk about. All right, so as they invade the Soviet Union, how many Soviets died in this invasion, in this whole war, right? A lot of it starts here, obviously, but Eli, just 1 million? This whole invasion, this whole war, a lot more than 1 million. What is that? No, more than that. We're not talking about the siege of Stalingrad here. We're talking about the whole operation, the whole war. Soviets, how many people did they lose?
30 million.
Oh. Okay, are we just guessing here now? Or Ben, do you actually have one? 50 million? 50? No, not that high. Oh my gosh, no, 27 million. 27 million Soviets died in this war. Well, no, I'm talking about Operation Barbarossa. Operation Barbarossa, the whole war, the Soviets lost 27 million people. It all came from the hands of the Germans. So this is brutal. This is just a number that you can't even really fathom. All right, now we'll get to the siege of Leningrad. This is a part of Operation Barbarossa. Again, one of the ideas here as they're invading is rather than just taking these cities, right, these industrial areas, right, fighting home to home, street to street, is very difficult to do. Takes a lot of time, a lot of resources, and you're going to lose a lot of men. So rather than doing that, they encircle these cities, okay, and they lay sieges on them. So sending in the aircraft, Luftwaffe, right, bombing a lot of these major areas to try to force them into surrendering. It's like the Blitz, but in these Soviet areas. You guys remember the Blitz in Great Britain? Okay. And then cutting off all resources coming in. All right, Leningrad, which is way up here, but just to give you guys an idea, it was what city? The city built on bones? What was the city called? I have one of these questions on the final. I just put the final together. I might have to slim it down. It's 308 points. We're gonna be here all summer. Petersburg. Yeah, St. Petersburg, good job. So we're up here. So here's Leningrad, guys. Here's Leningrad. Okay. As the Germans are invading, they're aiming for these three cities: Leningrad, Moscow, and Stalingrad. Today we're gonna talk about Stalingrad. Right, anyway, with the siege of Leningrad, about 2 million people died in this 900-day siege. Okay. So again, a lot of them freezing to death, starving to death. And this is a brutal siege that just, I mean, obviously it's horrifying to imagine. And there were rumors about cannibalism, but I don't know. I don't really know that for sure. But with this siege, again, you can imagine just the horrors of the Nazis' grip on the Soviet Union for many, well, months and even years of the war. So again, Moscow, we'll talk about it. The Germans got right up to the gates of Moscow. They're about 5 miles away. And then they said, you know what, we're going to shift it somewhere else. We're going to shift our attention to Stalingrad. All right, so here's your one term today. That's it. Battle of Stalingrad. Battle of Stalingrad. So I'll give you guys some time to research the term, and then we'll talk about it. And we'll focus today's lesson on it. Great.
Please, we're saying please. Oh.
I'm gonna go long with my question. This one we just had. Really?
Wait, is the map really good?
Yeah, the two maps.
Two maps.
European map and Pacific map.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe a little.
Yeah. I need her to. Yeah, but me, please. That's the only way we can learn.
All right, you said it 3 times. That's the rule. So yes, I'll make a book.
Thanks.
Make a Quizlet too. Maybe a Kahoot, probably not. But Kahoot's not fun no more.
No.
Really? It's a thing in the past. When I was in college, it was like a new thing. You're like, oh, we gotta do Kahoots, gotta do Kahoots. Huh?
Keep up with the time. It's so fun.
I know, right? Just look at there. I'm just kidding,
You're on the entire YouTube. Can see it.
You calm down, Grace, that's your fault.
He said he was done.
Oh, I'm done. I promise.
He said, told you, wasn't he?
No,
No? Is he on?
I'm not revealing my sources. Hey, you know what? Actually, this might get a lot of views now because people are gonna be saying you should have. YouTube video. Wait, he's trying to talk about someone. Was that one?
You provoked me.
No, I didn't start it yet. All right, here you go. Battle of Stalingrad. What do we have? What's so important here about this battle? I know I mentioned it. I know I talked about it. But Austin, go ahead.
Because it was like Russians like if they won, it would have Russia.
Germany, if they would have won?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Stalingrad's is key to the war. This is the turning point. Make sure you guys write that down. This is the turning point in the European theater. Up until this point, I mean, Germany has just been destroying everybody, haven't they? Yeah. What tactic have they been using to their advantage? Blitzkrieg, lightning warfare. Good job. Excellent, man. Keep this up, sir. All right. So as we get to Stalingrad, though, this stops. Okay. And we'll mention about it. This is going to be a tug of war match. You guys want to put that in? That's good too. Back and forth for the city. Right? Why is the city so important? Well, this is a key to the Caucasus area where all this oil production is. So south of Stalingrad, you see Stalingrad up there, guys, the red marker. Yeah. Okay. You know how it was yesterday looking at the map, right? All right, here's Stalingrad. Right below here is rich with oil. Okay. Again, Russia has been utilizing it to their advantage up until this point. Now Germany wants it, right? They want it bad. Also, that's named after who? Stalingrad's named after who? Calvin?
Joseph Stalin.
Joseph Stalin. Good job. The Man of Steel? Ugh, not Superman. No. My oh my no. But again, Joseph Stalin. It bears his name. So if you're Hitler, you're like, yeah, let's try to take this because, well, it's named after him. Perfect. All right. So in 1942, here's the height of German occupation of Europe. All right, their expansion. Okay, and out here in the Pacific, you can see what Japan. At this point, 1942, this is it, right? And from here on out, we're going to see the Allied powers pushing Germany back to their borders, and then here, Japan, the United States is going to be pushing Japan back to their borders. So the turning points happen, ironically, very close together. All right, we'll talk about the Pacific theater here, which that was a question I just took off the test for you. It's the Battle of Midway. But here in the European theater, it is Stalingrad. All right, so real quick, I don't really have much written information. I'm just going to talk about it. But as Operation Barbarossa is taking effect, and it looks like the Germans are this close taking the Soviet Union. Well, Stalingrad, again, is where Hitler really focused a lot of his attention towards. Again, the reason for it, it's this key city that pivots down to the Caucasus region. That's a major thing to know, right? There's a lot of oil here, right? A lot of resources that the Nazis can utilize to last out a long war against Great Britain, holding on by a thread, right? And eventually the United States, right? Again, the United States, we'll talk about it more. Their entrance into World War II in the European theater is a little bit different. We're not going to just go in guns a-blazing in Europe right away. We'll mention about it. We'll talk how they actually go into parts of North Africa first. We get our feet wet, right? Just like in World War I. You guys remember that? Right? We were kind of hesitant. And we're going to be hesitant again here entering the war in Europe. Anyway, as the Germans are moving very, very quick with blitzkrieg attacks, they get halted here at Stalingrad. Right? Again, Joseph Stalin thing, a lot of resources and oil, and this is a big manufacturing city. Okay, that's another point here to emphasize. There's a lot of manufacturing when it comes to military products and goods. All right, so with Stalingrad, okay, this lasts very long, right? This is a very long battle. And this is important to write down. This is probably the most, as you could say, pivotal battle ever in history. I know that's hard to say because there's a lot of meaningful wars, significant wars, but this battle is very crucial. Because if the Soviets were lost, who knows how this world would look today? Who knows how this war would have went? Okay, because the Nazis would have had control of a lot of the resources that they need. And, well, who knows if this would have broke the morale of the Soviets. It could have just ended all right here. All right, at Stalingrad is this focus point. Well, you gotta imagine the Russians want to hold on to it every bit they can. So they're throwing everything they can at Stalingrad. Resources, material, manpower, you name it. There's a lot of reports that there's a lot of Soviets that didn't even have weapons. They're like, hey, we're running low. It is what it is. Germans are right here at our doorstep. So whenever that guy falls over near you, just pick up his gun and go fight him. Right? Try to defend the city as all means possible. So with that, I mean, there's a lot of reports on that. It's totally true. I don't really know for sure, but they were low in resources, so it's feasible, right? So another thing here too is that with Stalingrad, this was a tug of war match. This was constantly going back and forth between the Soviets and the Germans. It seemed like almost every day, every few days, that the city looked like it was taken by Germany, and then, well, taken by the Soviets. All right, why is this battle different? This is urban warfare, right? This whole time we've been talking about blitzkrieg. Well, this is open fields, open land, and the Germans can move at a very, very fast pace, right? Yeah, blitzkrieg, lightning warfare. Now that they get to these cities, this changes the game. Now this fighting is home to home, building to building, street to street, right? And who knows the streets and roads and, obviously when it comes to buildings better? The Soviets, right? Yeah. So as they get to this city, this urban area, now warfare changes forever. Right, in World War I, you kind of saw this, but World War II now, these cities are a lot more urbanized. These cities are a lot more industrialized. Right? These buildings are pretty darn massive, and there's a lot of hiding spots too for the Soviets. Right, so as Germany gets in, it does look like they're mowing through it, no problem. They're constantly laying siege to it with bombing runs, the Luftwaffe and artillery. And the Soviets actually are hiding a lot in the sewer tunnels. Ew, gross, disgusting, I know. They're fortifying themselves in homes and old factories and old industries and fighting against the Germans as all means possible. Again, they have to hold on to it. So they're throwing as many people in as possible. One thing to note is that the Soviets actually did a good job at continuing to pump out tanks, military supplies and armaments as the battle's happening. I know it sounds crazy as the Germans are lobbing shells and left and right, but they still produce. They still kept their production going, which allowed them to survive. Right, snipers were a big part of the battle. So you might have heard of this guy before. His name was Vasily Zaitsev. He killed over 200 German officers. So you got to imagine, as these German officers are trying to plan out the strategies of Stalingrad, he's just taking them out left and right. And then when you're without a leader, what happens? Everybody's confused, right? No one really knows what to do. So women actually joined in a lot too with these snipers. Right, another thing here too with Stalingrad is that towards the end, the Soviets, well, they won this. They sent everything they could and surrounded a lot of the German troops and armaments, the Sixth Army, in Stalingrad, in the city. So as they surrounded it, well, they were cut off. And this forced Germany to surrender over 90,000 troops to the Soviets. And from here on out, well, Soviets will be on the attack. Make sure you guys know Stalingrad is the turning point, right? And this was bloody, this was terrorizing, right? This was terrible, right? There's over 2.5 million deaths in Stalingrad alone. You guys remember saying million earlier? Well, this battle alone, 2.5 million deaths. Wow. Unbelievable.
Stop talking.
No, especially after getting yelled at.
1 minute and he's still yakking.